Hello, my name is Greg Norkus, and I'm a faculty member at Cornell University School of Hotel Administration. In collaboration with the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, we've developed this program to help you better understand the business of restaurants. Now, when people think of the business of restaurants, they tend to think about the attributes from a guest perspective, typically the menu, the food and service quality, the atmosphere, etc. And while a restaurant may indeed provide excellent quality at a competitive value in the marketplace, they may still be a candidate for failure if they don't understand the basic unit level economics of the business of restaurants. And it is our goal in the development of this program to provide you with that basic fundamental information to be successful in this industry. In order to do so, we have to understand the interplay between the key activities and the people associated with them in this business. So if you would, I'd like you to think for a moment in a large level, if you will, macroeconomic perspective. If we were to reduce this business down to only 3 key activities, what those activities might be. And these activities would be typical of any industry, but we're here talking about the restaurant business today. One of those 3 key activities is the marketing function. Second one is the operations, and the third is the finance. Those 3 key activities are what are responsible for our ability to generate profitability in this industry. We also need to think of the 3 people who are responsible for each of those activities, and they are distinctly different. So if you would, I want you to think about who's responsible for developing the marketing plan for a restaurant. That would be the management team's responsibility. And the marketing consists of those attributes that most of us think of from the guest perspective: the menu, the atmosphere, the style of service, advertising and promotion, etc. Operations. Well, this usually surprises people, but I like to think that the guest is responsible for operations. And in that regard, I'd like you to think that if no guest walked in your restaurant's door, we'd have no revenue. And without revenue, we'd have no operations. Management spent all the time developing the marketing plan, which is largely expense-driven, and we need the guest participation in order to generate the revenues to offset the expenses. And last but certainly not least, if it were not for the owner's idea, and perhaps more importantly, their ability to get access to capital, this restaurant enterprise would never have occurred in the first place. And those are the 3 key activities and the people responsible for them that we're going to be focusing on in this program. I'd like you to think of your favorite restaurant for a moment. I'm sure most of you have one, and I'd like to define your favorite restaurant as the one that you go to most frequently, not the one that is your fondest memory. I'd like you to think about its name and why is it your favorite place. And I want you to discriminate. We can't accept responses where everything is outstanding. For example, if we were to reduce it to a single reason, you might say it's the food. And food can be further described by various descriptors. It might be the quality, it might be the variety, the presentation, it might be the value relationship that they provide. So take a moment and think about your favorite restaurant. What's its name, and why is it your favorite restaurant? Is your favorite restaurant profitable? How would you know? Well, perhaps you have insight into the financial statements of that enterprise, but from a guest perspective, we don't have that information. And many people might confuse the fact that a restaurant is very popular, it's very busy, but may in fact be unprofitable, or if profitable, may be suffering from some other financial conditions that will impede its success. So we're going to begin with an introduction to the 3 financial statements that are common to any business. The balance sheet, and we will go on to describe these in greater detail. The statement of income, sometimes referred to as the P&L for profit and loss. And the statement of cash flow. In a public corporation, we may also find a 4th financial statement called the Statement of Retained Earnings, but in the example that we're using today in this program, we are going to be focusing on a single unit independent restaurant, and we'll restrict our analysis to these three financial statements. We're going to begin with the balance sheet. And what does the balance sheet tell us? Well, the balance sheet represents the financial condition of the business at any point in time. So there's a time dimension to the balance sheet that we have to understand. A balance sheet can be assembled at any point in time. And the information that the balance sheet contains is the following. Some of you may be familiar with accounting, and we have this expression called assets. And assets are the productive resources that the restaurant has at its disposal with which to generate the business that it does. And there's a fundamental accounting equation that assets must equal some other components of the balance sheet, including the liabilities. And liabilities are debts that we owe others, people who made a contribution to this enterprise, who we promise to repay, in addition to other contributors, the owners, who provided the equity capital that enabled this enterprise to begin. The statement of income. The statement of income is different from the balance sheet in that it is also time-based, but it represents a summary of activity over a period of time, as opposed to a single point in time like the balance sheet. And the information contained in the statement of income, I'm sure, is familiar to all of you. It is the revenue less the expenses, and the magic formula in our business, or any business, is the generation of profit. Revenue less expenses equals profit, or loss if the expenses exceed the revenues. The statement of cash flow is the third statement that we're going to look at in our program today. And it is a summary of cash inflows. And I want you to think of cash inflows as being sources of cash available to the business, and cash outflows, which would be things that consume cash or uses of cash. And this summary occurs over a period of time from three activities. And those activities are operating activities, and the information from which we gather the data to build the statement of cash flow from the operating activity comes from two of the statements that we have just described, the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. Investing activity is another source of cash inflows and outflows, and that information appears to us on the balance sheet. And financing activities are the third component of the statement of cash flow, and they also reside on the balance sheet. In order to assist us in the execution of this program, we're going to refer to a simulated restaurant that, for convenience purposes, we'll call Our Place. And to give it a little identity, Our Place is a casual 123-seat table service restaurant, open 7 days a week for dinner only. The menu offers a variety of beef, chicken, pasta, and seafood preparations in the $12 to $16 price range. And a selection of moderately priced wine, beer, and spirits is also available for the guests' consumption. We're going to begin our introduction to these statements and the understanding of the business of restaurants with the balance sheet. For one important reason. Chronologically, it's first. Every business has an opening day. And we're going to take some time now to construct the opening day balance sheet for Our Place. And at this point, we want to refer to the opening chronology document that's available to you.